Hello, friends, and welcome to another installment of Go Tell It on the Mountain. This time, I'm going to say that my heart is a little bit bursting because I get to spend some time with my own pastor, Reverend Timothy, who's the pastor of Newman Congregational in Rumford, Rhode Island. Hello, Timothy. Thank you so much.
Hello.
And thank you
Well,
for the burden or the blessing of being able to pastor me. Which I'm sure comes with all kinds of tentacles attached. But I'm grateful for your yes and for the ability to connect with Newman,
absolutely.
which I'm
Absolutely.
looking very forward to be with you all this weekend. But
Yeah.
Tim, as we always begin these things, I'm going to ask you about your call to ministry and then how that led you to Newman. However, before we begin there, I was just joking with you about I am in multiple conversations where I know people want to have the urge to say Timothy, but baby, there's no why. So I wanted to see, can you just tell us a little bit about Timothy? Like how your name came to be.
Absolutely. So, and of course, there are all sorts of jokes that have come up over the years. Actually, at one point, I used to just tell folks that my parents couldn't afford the full name. Um, so I will tell you a backstory that eventually leads to Timothy, and I'll be quick about it. So my birth name actually was Andrew Stephen. And before my birth certificate was completed, my grandmother recognized what my initials were going to spell: Andrew, Stephen, Sylvia. So my parents quickly changed my name, and they named me Timothy. So I was Tim, for the longest time until high school, when a friend of mine started using Timothy as a nickname, and it stuck. Everyone started using it: my friends, my family, myself, everyone. And so then, post 9/11, as I was, booking travel to go places, recognizing that my name that I used no longer matched my passport, I had it legally changed. So it is actually now Timothy.
Look at that. See, look at all the layers that you
See,
never
the
know.
the birth story is much more fun, but
Yes.
yeah,
Well, bless God for grandma,
absolutely,
who probably had a good
absolutely.
sense of humor as well to add to that. So now your call story. Tell us about your call and then how that call led you to Newman.
Look how serious you got.
Yeah.
So I was ordained in 2008, and I was actually ordained to campus ministry. I was campus minister at University of Maine, where I began that ministry while I was in seminary at Bangor Theological Seminary, or the seminary formerly known as Bangor Theological Seminary, and transitioned from that ministry to serving a church in the Chicago suburbs for a few years. When that congregation made the decision that they could no longer afford a full-time pastor, and so sort of recognized it was time for me to transition, and went through the search and call process, and honestly was in conversation with two churches at the same time: Newman and then another congregation out west. And as I continued working with the search committee and, really prayerfully considering, like, what is the next step going to be, it was an experience for me that I'd not felt as strong a sense of call to this, to other ministries as I did to this particular one. And I joke that with the search committee on my first night of interviewing, I ended by saying, I'm pretty clear that God is calling me here. You all need to catch up with that. And they did, and we had great conversation around it, and it really has been an opportunity for me to, thankfully, the way God has equipped me for ministry, to match those gifts with the needs of this particular faith community. And it's been just over 8 years now we've been together.
Wow. And you could tell us probably a myriad of things about the whole 8 years. But one of the things that I think people have really been drawn into in the Go Tell It on the Mountain series is people really talking about how in the midst of this pandemic, which we hope some relief is slowly coming, but people are still in it. They're still being creative. They're still innovative. There have been things that churches have done to really live into a sense of relevance for such a time as this. And I know because of my own personal connection to Newman, but I'm wondering if you might share, what are some things you've been excited about, some things that are happening at Newman, specifically in this time that you feel really are, I think as you and I were talking about earlier, that example of being the church, if you.
Yeah. Going back to the very beginning of the COVID pandemic, when our leadership was meeting, trying to determine, do we worship this coming Sunday with all of the news that was coming out about COVID, one of our members named in that conversation that there's an element of this experience that was exciting. The fact that we were going to have to innovate, we were going to have to be creative. We are not a congregation that was doing any sort of live streaming of worship prior to that. So all of these things that we were going to have to scramble to figure out, like so many other churches had to do. And I'll say that for these now nearly 2 years, there has continued to be that element of excitement in trying, determining how is it that God is calling us to be church in such a unique time and a unique way. The very beginnings of that experience were rocky, trying to figure out, I think I was doing some live sessions on Facebook, sort of, musings with Pastor Timothy or something. It wasn't an actual worship service. We were just saying, how do we still connect with people? And we've been able to progress. We now live stream our worship services. And of course, then they're, online, accessible at all times. So we have folks worshiping with us live on Sunday mornings and then accessing worship at other times throughout the week as well. We have, because of that online experience, and we shifted every single one of our ministries online, other than we're part of a community food pantry that is housed at our church. And so we continue to distribute food all this time in the parking lot instead of coming into the building. But even our knitting group went online. So, we, and some of the language that has been used now in our leadership conversations is that we have become an online church now with an in-person option for worship as we've been able to be back in the building again. Because all of our ministries still continue to have that online component. Some have actually determined that they will, even once we're able to fully be in person together, they have determined that their ministry will just be online, in part because we are now able to connect with folks outside of our geographic area for those ministries. And like, that's where some of that excitement really has come in that creating new ministries or being creative in our existing ministries to be able to make them accessible for folks and to be able to now connect with individuals that we never would have met, more than likely, that some that will never step through our doors. We are now able to be in ministry with them because we're an online church with an in-person option for worship.
I love that framing. Speaking of that, I want you just to tell us a little bit briefly about your emergence in TikTok. I mean, you really thought about bringing this affirming sense of ministry to people who may not find the Newman Congregational website and then watch that, but they are connected to you, I think, really offering a fresh wind, if you will, in terms of digital ministry. So can you just say a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So some time ago, actually, I think a year ago, September, I had shifted a lot of my social media energy from Facebook to TikTok. And just trying to figure it out. And as a lot of creators will say, trying to find your niche. And started recognizing that the progressive Christian message was something a lot of people were hungering for on that particular platform. And I started getting a following of folks who were engaging with the content that I was creating. I then had conversation with our church's leadership about it because I don't remember how many. I think I may have had like 30,000 followers at that time, and I was being really protective of the church. Not giving out information about the church, not talking about it, not wanting to put the church in a situation where, as we see on all sorts of social media, there are some negative voices that start entering in. Our leadership had conversation about it, and we fully understood this to be an incredible opportunity for evangelism. And it has been that. We now are connecting with folks who find their way to Newman through my particular TikTok account, who are now worshiping with us on Sunday mornings. They're active in our book discussions, our Bible studies, our various other ministries, again, because they are living off in other states or countries and can access it online. So it's been an incredible experience to now actually be a part of what is this growing community of progressive Christian clergy on TikTok that have, millions of views of content, and so many individuals who are coming and seeking out that sort of an affirming voice. It's incredible to see. Absolutely incredible.
Okay, so you have to tell us the handle. How can we find you on TikTok?
At Rev Timoth.
At Rev Timoth. Don't forget, folks, don't put the Y. Just
Right.
at Rev
Yes.
Timoth.
Yes.
They'll be able to find you. So,
Yeah.
Timoth, this Sunday, we get to worship together. I'll be at Newman Congregational in Rumford, Rhode Island. But you were describing what are other ways people can connect. They can either meet us there in person on Sunday, I'm imagining, or you said they can also find you where else?
Absolutely. So 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, the in-person option in the sanctuary. We also live stream our worship on our Facebook page. So facebook.com/NewmanUCC, on our website, newmanucc.org, and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/NewmanUCC.
Timothy, thank you so much, not only for being my pastor, but for all of the great work that you're doing in Rumford, Rhode Island, but really, I just think all throughout the conference. And I also just want to name Timothy not only served on my search committee, but he is also our vice moderator on the Southern New England Conference's board of directors. So thank you for your service. If folks are looking for ways to get connected, we are always looking for people who want to volunteer to be on the board or be on various committees. So please connect with the conference in that way. Thanks for your time,
Absolutely.
Timothy. Look forward
Thank
to
you.
you on Sunday.